next speaker is no other than John Charles Altomonte. He is the Director for Externals at the Philippine Taxonomic Initiative Incorporated, and his presentation is entitled New Plant Novelties Discovered by the Philippine Taxonomic Initiative Incorporated. A briefer of Sir John. He is an entrepreneur and environmental scientist working towards revolutionizing the energy industry and shaping environmental policy. He received his master's degree in environmental management from the Ateneo de Manila University, where he continues to sit as an adjunct faculty member. He also serves as a consultant for the Senate of the Philippines and the World Wildlife Fund. He sits on the board of several non-government organizations such as the Clean Energy Revolution and the Philippine Taxonomic Initiative. He also leads a team under the USAID's Energy Secure Philippines activity. Sir John, you may take the floor.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. Let me share my screen really quickly. Can I just quickly get a confirmation that my screen is sharing and visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, so again, thank you for the introduction. It's a bit of a departure from, I guess, the previous speakers who are very much into the hard sciences, and my background really, well, my current activities really focus on energy, but I do currently sit on the board as the Director of External Affairs with the Philippine Taxonomic Initiative. And this newfound, I think this transition to taxonomy and botany really was one of those that occurred relatively recently throughout the pandemic, one of those plantito moments that really went really deep into the rabbit hole of botany, and ended up with me partnering with PTI. And so now I sit here and I'm really happy to present some of the work we've done as an institution over the past few years. So I'll be going through some of the new species and new records that we've described in the Philippines for the past 2 years. So before that, a little bit of a background on PTI, or the Philippine Taxonomic Initiative. So we're an independent, not-for-profit, non-government organization, and we're really focused on advancing taxonomy, the discovery and description of flora and fauna in the Philippines. So we work with a lot of local taxonomists, a lot of early researchers and young scientists, a lot of foresters as well, and indigenous peoples, to really develop the skills to really move this field further. So supporting research into not just the taxonomy, but really the ecology of new plant and animal species. So we were founded in 2018, and we're managed by a team of experts who really coordinate and run the show. And I'll go through some of the team members now. So we have Rene Alfred Anton Bustamante, who's our executive director. We fondly call him Raab. We have Maverick Tamayo, who's currently abroad, finishing up his doctoral studies. We have me, of course, and our international begonia expert, Yupin Ang from Singapore as well. We also have a pretty diverse research team from all over the Philippines. I won't go through each one now. And of course, we also do collaborate with PSU as well, and we work very closely with them for some of our study sites in Palawan. So why do we look for new species? We often get this question a lot by people who really are not knee deep into hard sciences. What's the point of discovering new species or describing new species? And it really is integral to really understand our ecosystems. It's an ecosystem and an environment is such a complex structure, right? It's so full of interlinkages, and if you remove one piece, that really affects the entire ecosystem. And it's very hard to understand, to manage, and to protect what we don't know. There's that common saying, we cannot manage what we cannot measure. And for us, really the first step is to know at the individual, at the species level, what is present in our ecosystem. And from there, we can better understand what are the various interlinkages between flora, between fauna, and how do these all tie together and contribute to the country's really rich and diverse biodiversity. We also do this in part to raise awareness, again, as sort of, and I am living proof of that, that plant craze that occurred during the pandemic and during the lockdown has really piqued a lot of our countrymen's interests in plants and in biodiversity. And the work that we do is really tailored also towards raising awareness. We do a lot of communication efforts on raising awareness about all the wonderful plants that we have and are present and undiscovered as well. And I'll get into a little bit of what we have discovered and described recently later on. And again, we also really focus on protecting and managing and conserving what is threatened. So we work in certain areas, and that we're really working with local foresters and local government as well, and providing knowledge on the various species that are present in these areas really allows for the better management and for the better protection of these species and of these areas as a whole. So we do have a series of projects. They currently are primarily located in Luzon and in Palawan as well. So we're looking right now primarily at the biodiversity of the Pantabangan Karanglan Watershed Forest Reserve. We're also looking at the Abasig, Patugnon, Mananap Natural Biotic Area. And of course, in Palawan, we have the limestone karst formations of North and North Central Palawan, and the ultramafic peaks as well in Central Palawan. So the points are not super exact. Obviously, this is just a geographical representation. So let's jump straight into some of the new species that we've described over the past few years. In mainland Luzon, we have about 6 from 2020 up until very recently, just last month, in 2022. So we've gone through a new melastoma, a dendrochilum, 2 amorphophallus, an ardisia species, and a begonia as well. So 6 in total. Jumping over to Palawan, there are quite a lot. It's a relatively undescribed area. So there's a pretty significant number. Of course, as you can see here, the majority are begonias. We have 5 begonias here. A Medinilla, 2 Medinilla species, and a Vaccinium as well. Oh, and a Ritzdelea in the bottom right, which I missed. So 9 in total. In Mindanao, we do have some presence. And we recently described a new species there as well, a new begonia, Begonia macuruyot. We also collaborate very closely with other institutions. So we have a number of collaboration papers that are partially authored by some members of PTI and partially authored as well by, again, our collaborative institutions or partners around the globe and around the Philippines as well. So again, a ton of new species. We have a new Corybas, again, 3 new begonias, an Escananthus, and a Delokia as well. So again, these are spread a little bit more in the Vismin area, in Palawan as well. So currently, as it stands, PTI and our current active members really are based around Luzon, and there tends to be, again, because we are a small team, the scope of where we usually go in terms of our expeditions really does focus a little bit more on mainland Luzon, mostly for ease of access, availability of funds, etc. The wonderful thing about being able to partner with all these, again, different researchers, different institutions, different foresters, even different enthusiasts that aren't really formally trained around the Philippines is that it really allows us to help support them as they describe new species, as they document new species. It's so often, every week, we usually get a couple of inquiries on our social media page about people asking us, what is this plant? What is this flower? And really, this really builds into part of our greater agenda of communicating and raising awareness about creating scientists and botanists and local practitioners as well. And our various new species that we've managed to describe around the Philippines really is testament to that as well. So we also have some other papers that aren't necessarily just limited to plants. So for example, we do have a few rediscoveries. So rediscovering Amorphalis longus pithyceus in Isabela, and the New Soraya species as well in Zamboanga. We also look at a potential pollinator for the naked-faced spider hunter, which is a flower visitor, as you can see pictured here, and a potential pollinator of the genus Aescunanthus. So in the picture, you can see the spider hunter feeding on the nectar of an Aescunanthus. So we also have a new distribution record of an habenaria in Panay Island. Again, this is one of our more recent papers as well, just this August, just last month. So in summary, we really are striving to really advance taxonomic and biodiversity research in the Philippines by bringing together local and international networks of citizens and scientists to really gather a more robust data set on Philippine species. We really are quite lacking in this regard. There's a whole wealth of new information, new species, undescribed species, different interlinkages again, like for example, the spider hunter and the Aescunanthus, all these different interactions that we're unaware of and that we still really do need to do a lot of work on. So ultimately, our goal is to facilitate better informed management decisions, whether that's from people growing plants in their garden, or to governments managing protected areas, land managers, private institutions as well, other organizations similar to ourselves, to really keep the incredibly diverse landscape and environment of the Philippines intact for future generations. So again, just want to reiterate that we are very open to working with external institutions. That's my job as the Director of External Affairs. So if there's anybody here who wants to partner or wants to collaborate on research or any of the work that we do, please do reach out and we're very open to it. And that's it. That's the end of the presentation. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, and we hope to be in touch with more of you soon.
Thank you very much, Sir John Altomonte, for your presentation. Again, may I call on Professor Annalie Sal to start our short open forum. Ma'am, may you have the floor.
Very inspiring talk, especially the last statement was you're looking forward for collaboration. So what we have in the audience, we have lots of participants there. Probably some of you would be very much interested in collaborating with the PTI. I think did you send in your contact details, Sir John? So students and other, we have a lot of people in the audience. Some of them may be students or researchers, budding researchers. Okay, so may we have our first question from the audience? Wala pong question. Okay, so you were Sir John has placed a contact number, okay, for those of you who are interested to do research collaboration. Okay, no question. May I ask my question, Sir John? So what would be the requirements? What would be the requirements for a particular individual? Because I saw in your presentation, you have a lot of, these are collaborators. You have from different institutions, yes. So what would be the requirements? For example, me, if I want to collaborate with you, what would be the requirements so that you will accept my I mean, do you have an application form for that or anything?
So we're generally quite open and quite flexible. So we don't necessarily have an application form. So again, it really, really varies, and we try not to limit too much the requirements or anything of that sort. So for us, if there is potential, if we can help in any way, if we can collaborate in any way, we're very, very happy to do so. So you can simply just reach out, as you can email me, or you can message anyone, any of our social media sites. I link them as well. So we're on Instagram and Facebook, so you can reach out there as well. And we're happy to set up a separate introductory call and to talk about potential ways we can collaborate, whether that's describing a new species, joining in an expedition. We're very open to different modalities of collaboration.
Okay, Thank you. There's another question from Dr. Rousey. Hi, John. Thanks for the great talk. I'm totally ignorant about plants, but I was curious. Why so many begonias? That's the first question. Then, followed by, are there just a lot of begonia species? And then, next, are you looking in habitats where begonia thrives? Or do you just have a team that specializes on begonias? That's from Dr. Rousey.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent question. If you do notice, it's not actually just begonias, but if you do notice the various species that we described, they're quite limited to a certain number of genera, and it just so happens that a lot of them do happen to be begonias. And this is really mostly because a lot of our team do have specializations in certain areas. So for certain genera, for example, we do have a begonia expert, and he seems to be just the hardest working. No, I'm just kidding. We do have a lot of begonia species that just happen to be new. We do have a begonia expert available, and so it just so happens that a lot of the species we end up describing are new begonias. It's a little bit of a mix of, there are a lot of undescribed begonia species, and the fact that we do have a begonia expert available. And then that just ends up being the case that currently, over the past 2 years, our distribution of new species records have skewed a little bit towards begonias.
Okay. Thank you, Sir John. Okay, let me know before you leave, Sir John, stay for the panel discussion later on. I would like to award this certificate of appreciation to John Charles Altomonte for serving as resource person during the UPLB Museum of Natural History special webinar on research and collections, given this 29th day of September 2022 during the museum's 46th anniversary celebration with the theme Continuing Excellence Through Adversity, Creating Partnerships, Fruitful Research, and Digitized Collections. Signed, Marian P. De Leon, Director, MNH. Thank you, Sir John Charles.
Thank you as well, everyone.